begin with having each country, each delegate present a short, thought-out policy statement on where they stand.
We, the United States of America, being one of the biggest consumers of illegal drugs and being the country with some of the biggest productions of NPS, believe that we are at the forefront of the drug epidemic.
Thailand has already rehabilitated 180,000 patients in treatment centers, and we are looking to make that number a lot larger.
We need the adequate funding and resources required to implement the resolution making NPS illicit both legally and practically.
We need larger security points and more of them and more thorough check-ins so things like this don't come into our reports.
We wanted to support research involving NPS and exchange that information through internal organizations and internationally.
And just like there are a team of scientists each year working to fight the new flu, we need to create a committee of delegates who will meet every year or so to fight the new NPS.
If we are able to create regional agencies specifically tasked with NPS and at narcotics as a whole, we can relieve the burden upon individual nations and share it around with the region.
This clearly passes.
Okay, South Africa on the floor.
South Africa believes that we should be discussing where this money is going rather than who is going to give the money.
However, I believe that every country should chip in a percentage of their GDP.
But right now we have to make a big outline of like all of our issues. We can't go straight into how much we're going to give each other.
Say Sierra Leone, for instance. We need money. We need funding. Would it make sense for us to pay for that funding?
It is our duty to help the global community, not to directly benefit ourselves.
We are the United Nations. We must come up with plans that work, not that sound good.
Here in the United States, we have a state-of-the-art system for tracking the creation and even predicting the creation of NPS. And this is something we would like to share with the world, with the rest of the countries who are facing the same problems, whose detection systems might not be as good.
We can easily be able to access this database and find information, but also if maybe one country was not aware of the dangers of one as NPS, the meetings will definitely help.
Then they can share information and we will be able to carry out whatever they did.
This international database, although it's a good idea, it's not enough. It's basically just a repetition of Resolution 56.
That I personally do not feel is realistic.
Exceedingly difficult, perhaps impossible at this point, to create an informational database that bridges nations that is also completely secure from hackers. Much of this information we're talking about is already public and can't suddenly be made confidential.
And the chair would also smile upon a separate moderated caucus about public access to information, seeing as that's something a lot of you guys mentioned but wasn't exactly the topic of our previous moderated caucus. It's something
This motion clearly passes. We are now in an 11-minute moderated caucus, 1-minute speaking time on decriminalization of currently illegal drugs and NPS. Congo, you have the floor.
If we decriminalize drugs, we're essentially making this available to the public. And NPS and other illicit drugs have already harmed the public enough.
Half of this is preventing helping the health of the citizens by having them not take drugs, and the other half is protecting our citizens from drug-related violence. And so decriminalizing drugs takes away that aspect of violence, which is even more so a problem than the public health issue. So now your job is to find common ground, things that the United Nations as a whole can get behind.
Just because the law says it's legal doesn't mean what they're doing is morally or ethically right. And decriminalizing drugs doesn't suppress the drug trade, it fuels it.
There have been lots of cases where especially cancer patients have lived longer than expected because of using cannabis as treatment.
There's medical prescriptions of it, and then also you can eat it. So, and it has many medical uses, such as like helping you sleep.
There's a lot of opportunity in there to create different legislation and different laws around different specific uses And that's definitely something that you guys should work on, finding that perfect balance as the UNODC.
We still want to help our people. We want to help them get better. Any good country would. But there needs to be some sort of punishment for breaking the law.
Currently in Thailand, there are 98 mandatory rehabilitation centers. And in no way are they just, pleasant. They are not pleasant places. They are detention centers, and they do deter as well as rehabilitate.
We're now in a 10-minute unmoderated caucus. Please work diligently, delegates.
Delegates, our unmoderated caucus is over. Ireland has a complete and utter ban on all psychoactive substances with specific exemptions for substances like coffee, tobacco, alcohol, and food, which includes sugar many times, which is technically a psychoactive substance.
I'm sure since we have a lot more resources and a lot more people than the people who are creating these NPS, we can certainly keep ahead of them and ban drugs quicker than they can make them.
Thailand believes that it is a good proposal to invest further into cyber surveillance so that we can accurately combat new psychoactive substances over the internet.
The internet marketplace for drugs is a widely growing and fast expanding darknet.
Now you see a cigarette ad and it's a public service announcement showing a very graphic image of a cancerous mouth or a cancerous lung. A huge problem with NPS is simple ignorance. So a public education campaign could have a lot of good potential.
Clause 4. Advocates for a plan to implement drug education in schools, especially regarding NPS, which are not currently addressed in most schools.
Suggest the establishment of a team of scientists and researchers. A. It would be tasked with compiling a database of all known NPS and all known ingredients of NPS and predicting future NPS.
All those delegates who do support 1.1 as it stands right now, please raise your placards now. All those against? 4 had 9, against had 10, and there were 2 abstentions. Please remember that we need to start coming up with ideas for an amendment and then writing that as soon as possible.
It will be a lot easier with this resolution. You will be able to rid your country from NPS that are being abused.
The first one would be to make an amendment to strike all of the subclauses excluding certain drugs such as tobacco, alcohol, because with that clause in there, it makes it seem like we're banning all other psychoactive substances, and that is definitely not what that clause is doing.
China would like to say that we will only vote for this bill if the delegate of the United States and the other writers of Resolution 1.0 specify the use that medical NPS would be used for. Otherwise, we will not vote for this bill.
All those in favor of passing draft resolution 1.1, please raise your placards now.
Okay.
All those against?
And all those abstaining.
By a vote of 21-0, draft resolution 1.1 is passed, and we now have resolution 1.1.
Is clapping in order?
Clapping is
in order. Thank you, delegates, for a wonderful day of debate. Even in the UN General Assembly, when each individual delegate is actually representing the real country on the map, they're still people, they're still human beings, and they still have their own quirks, and they still have their own personal grudges against other delegates, and all of that is mimicked here. And so working also all through all that those personal dynamics and that whole personal angle on all this is great training for the real world as well.